You've definitely seen it before. A plane gliding across the sky, quiet from where you're standing, but leaving behind this long white streak like it's doodling across a giant blue canvas. And suddenly your brain's like, wait, what is that? Smoke? Clouds? Are the pilots up there painting? And if your uncle spends too much time on Facebook groups, he's probably whispered the word chemtrails. Let's pump the brakes on that real quick. What you're seeing are contrails, short for condensation trails, and they're not just random sky graffiti. They're little science lessons written above our heads. And once you know what they mean, you'll start noticing them differently. Honestly, it's one of those things where the explanation is cooler than the myth.
What you're looking at is a condensation trail, or contrail for short, which is a streak of cloud that condenses behind the plane as a result of the engine exhaust. The exhaust is initially very hot, but it rapidly cools as it mixes with the surrounding air, condensing into water droplets before quickly freezing into ice crystals in the frigid temperatures that exist at cruising altitude.
So here's the recipe for a contrail. It's ridiculously simple, but the ingredients are massive. Hot exhaust plus freezing cold sky. Planes fly really high, usually between 30,000 and 40,000 feet FAA. At that altitude, the air is bone-chillingly cold. Like, leave a soda can outside and it'll explode in 10 minutes. Cold. We're talking minus 40 degrees Celsius, or even lower, National Weather Service. Now, jet engines burn fuel, which produces exhaust that includes water vapor. NASA Glenn Research Center. Toss that hot, wet vapor into the icy sky freezer, and it instantly condenses and freezes into tiny ice crystals. What do ice crystals do? They shine bright white in sunlight, and boom, there's your streak. So, in plain terms, contrails are basically accidental man-made clouds. They're not smoke, they're not pollution clouds, they're just frozen breath from planes. It's literally the same thing that happens when you exhale on a frosty winter morning and see your breath puff out like you're auditioning for How to Train Your Dragon. Except instead of one misty puff, planes are leaving miles-long ice clouds behind them.
It starts to decrease in pressure. And as that pressure drops, so does the temperature. So if the air had very, very high humidity and that temperature starts to drop, it may start to condense out the water and form a cloud.
But here's a fun twist. Not every plane leaves contrails. And if you start noticing that, you'll feel like you unlocked some secret sky cheat code. Why is one plane sketching a giant line across the sky while another glides by, leaving nothing? It all comes down to the atmosphere's mood that day. Contrails need cold and humidity. If the air is too dry, the ice crystals evaporate too quickly, and the trail disappears instantly. American Meteorological Society. If the air is humid, the contrail hangs around, and sometimes spreads out until it looks like a whole new cloud. Think of it like trying to make cotton candy. If the conditions are wrong, the sugar just burns, but if they're right, you get fluffy magic. And contrails aren't all copy-paste. Sometimes they vanish in seconds, like a Snapchat streak you forgot to reply to. Other times they linger, expand, and stick around for hours, spreading out like spilled paint in water. IPCC Aviation report. Pilots and meteorologists actually use contrails as sneaky weather clues. Short-lived trails, the upper atmosphere is dry, long, fat ones. It's humid up there. So, yeah, contrails are basically the sky's version of a mood ring. Okay, let's rewind for a second and talk history. Contrails aren't new. People noticed them as far back as the early 1900s when planes started reaching higher altitudes, Smithsonian Air and Space Archives. But they became a big deal during World War II. Fighter pilots hated them. Imagine trying to sneak up on an enemy, but your plane is dragging a bright neon arrow behind you, saying, "Here I am." Military commanders actually worried contrails were giving away bomber squadrons to the enemy. Reports from the time show contrails being described as the bane of aerial stealth. That's how long humans have been side-eyeing the sky streaks.
Contain and emit toxic chemicals or poisons the government allegedly deliberately put in jet fuel, polluting the air to harm.
Now, let's talk about the elephant in the sky, the conspiracy theories. You've heard of chemtrails. The idea is that governments are secretly using planes to spray chemicals in the atmosphere for weather control, mind control, population control. Basically, if it sounds like a sci-fi Netflix plot, someone has said it. Harvard University, weather modification myths. But here's the thing. Actual science shows contrails are just ice crystals. Studies have tested air and water samples near contrails and, spoiler alert, found nothing but what you'd expect. Water, carbon dioxide, a little soot, EPA, NASA, no mysterious aluminum dust. No secret hormones, nothing. Chemtrails are the Bigfoot of the sky. Fun to talk about, but not actually real. But here's where contrails go from meh to whoa. They actually matter for our climate. See, contrails aren't just clouds. They act like them too. During the day, contrails can reflect some sunlight back into space, which cools Earth a little. NASA Earth Science Division. But at night, they trap heat in the atmosphere like a blanket. On average, the warming outweighs the cooling. IPCC, European Union Aviation, and Environment report. That means contrails are contributing to global warming. In fact, scientists estimate their impact on climate might be as large as the CO2 from planes themselves. IPCC. Yup, those wispy streaks overhead are low-key influencing the planet's thermostat.
Concerns somewhat came to fruition in 2008 when the Chinese government seeded clouds ahead of the 2008 Olympic ceremony, essentially creating rain in other parts of the country to keep the stadium free of rainfall.
And you know how we know this for sure? September 11th, 2001. After the attacks, all US flights were grounded for 3 days. With no contrails, scientists studied the temperature range across the US. And guess what? They found the difference between daytime highs and nighttime lows jumped by about 1 degree Celsius. Nature, 2002. That was groundbreaking proof that contrails were actually changing weather patterns. It's like Earth got a 3-day A/B test, and the results were clear. Contrails matter. So now, researchers are brainstorming solutions. One idea, rerouting flights around those super humid, icy patches of air where contrails form most persistently. European Space Agency. Think of it like swerving around potholes on a road. The tricky part? If you take longer routes, you burn more fuel, which pumps out more CO2. It's a balancing act, like trying to decide between taking a shortcut full of traffic or the scenic route with less drama. Now, back to the fun details. Because not everything has to feel like homework. Why are contrails always white? Easy. Ice crystals reflect and scatter sunlight, just like regular clouds. NCAR. That's why they're bright against the sky. If they were soot heavy, they'd look dark, but they're not. They're frozen water. So, contrails are basically nature's white highlighter pens, scribbling across the sky. And have you noticed how contrails sometimes crisscross each other, making giant X's and grids in the sky? People online lose their minds over this, like it's proof of a secret government plan. But really, it's just overlapping flight paths. The sky is full of invisible highways, and when multiple planes hit the right conditions, you get a tic-tac-toe board above your head. The truth is less sinister, but way cooler. It's the geometry of global travel happening in real time.
Trail can persist for many hours and even spread across the sky as cirrus clouds as a result of the background winds. This can be particularly noticeable if you live beneath a busy airspace where numerous contrails crisscross overhead on any given day.
But contrails aren't just science. They've become part of culture. Artists, photographers, poets, they've all used contrails as symbols of distance, longing, or fleeting beauty. Some call them sky scars. Others call them temporary highways. Instagram influencers? They love a contrail in the background of a sunset picture. Somehow, frozen jet exhaust became aesthetic. Who knew? And here's the poetic part. Every contrail is human stories in motion. Think about it. Inside that plane is a couple going on their honeymoon, or a student leaving home for the first time, or someone flying across the world for a job interview. That white line is their journey, written across the sky. Contrails are basically receipts of human movement, proof that we figured out how to connect continents with giant metal birds. Okay, quick analogy break. Contrails are kinda like TikTok trends. They appear suddenly. Some fade in seconds, some linger way too long, and people have strong opinions about them. They're also like Mario Kart speed trails, except instead of giving you a boost, they just confuse conspiracy theorists. And one more fun fact, contrails are so tied to aviation that pilots actually keep an eye on them in real time. In military settings, pilots even adjust altitudes to minimize contrails so they're harder to spot. Smithsonian Military Aviation Archives. Yep, contrails aren't just random, they can be tactical. So let's wrap this up. Next time you look up and see a plane dragging a white streak, here's what you'll know. It's not smoke, not chemicals, not aliens practicing calligraphy. It's science. Hot jet exhaust meeting freezing cold air, making mini ice clouds. Whether it fades instantly or lingers for hours depends on humidity. And yes, those innocent-looking trails are powerful enough to mess with our climate. Contrails are clouds we made by accident, and they're proof of just how connected we are to the planet's systems. So maybe the next time you're outside and spot one, you'll think about the people inside that plane. plane, or the climate science behind it, or maybe you'll just enjoy it as free sky art. Either way, you'll know there's a story behind every streak. Now here's my question for you. When you look up and see contrails, what do you think? Do you see them as pure science? Do they make you feel small, like we're just little creatures scribbling on the sky? Or do you kind of like the mystery vibe they bring? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you see the sky now.